He who thinks great thoughts often makes great errors, opines Martin Heidegger. Philosophy is a study of fundamental and general questions about reason, existence, values, etc. These questions are often posed as problems to be studied or resolved. Philosophy, in simple terms, is nothing but the love of wisdom. The term was probably coined by a famous philosopher, Pythagoras. There are array of philosophies. For example, Gandhian philosophy, economic philosophy, Buddhist philosophy. And today we have gathered here to promulgate on the topic impact of Gandhi's social philosophy in Kerala. Mahatma Gandhi, one of the leading figures of our Indian history, the father of our nation, too had his own philosophies. To quote some of them are, violence is fear of the other's ideals. This best defines the essence of his philosophy. A very warm good morning to one and all present, respected dignitaries, principal, distinguished guests, and our participants. Today, we celebrate the inaugural seminar of Indian Congress second series in association with History University College. We begin with the inaugural session. I cordially invite our eminent head of the department, Dr. Suraj, University College Trivandrum, for the inaugural address.
University College Trivandrum.
Suraj sir, your microphone is mute, sir.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I am Dr. G. Suraj, Head of the Department of History, University College, Trivandrum. At the outset, I would like to thank Indian Council of Philosophical Research, New Delhi, for sponsoring this program. First of all, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our beloved principal, Dr. G. Unnikrishnan sir, who gave us wholehearted support to this seminar. Now I extend a warm welcome to Professor Sushim Dubey, Professor of Philosophy, Navanalanda Mahavihar University, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, who will inaugurate this webinar. Sir, I extend a warm welcome to you on behalf of Department of History. Now I am happy to welcome our learned professor, Dr. B. Shobhanan sir, former professor, head, and Dean, University of Kerala, who Dr. Subramanian sir, to this webinar. I am very happy to welcome Dr. L. Vijay, learned professor of philosophy and one of my best friends, who readily agreed to participate in this seminar. I extend a warm welcome to you, Dr. Vijay sir. Now, I extend warm welcome to all teachers, students, research scholars, academicians to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your warm and edified welcome. Now I shall invite our respectable principal, Dr. B. Unikrishnan Nair, who has been a moral value and who has stood vigorously behind the developments regarding our college. He had played a great role in bringing up our college and making it recognizable with 23rd All India rank initiated by NIRN. I would make a note over here. Due to an urgent syndicate meeting of Kerala University, he won't be able to reach us, but he has shared his ideas and wishes to all our viewers, students, and everyone through a voice clip, which would be played presently.
Dear colleagues, and my dear students, it is a matter of great pleasure to be here with you. A few words on this occasion of the inaugural session of this webinar. First of all, I would like to appreciate the Department of History for conducting a webinar of such an important topic, influence of Gandhian philosophy in our social. Association with the Indian Council of Philosophy, New Delhi. Very one of us are familiar with Gandhi's view on social life and politics, were built upon strong pillars of truth and non-truth. So we know that a bloodless revolution which was unprecedented in the history of the world led by him through the philosophy of love, truth, ahimsa. I'm not going into the details. I hope this would be an excellent opportunity to all of our students to have interaction with eminent speakers who are here, and I request all of our students to do that.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. Now I invite Ms. Shakila, our senior teacher, assistant professor of University College Trivandrum, to call upon our dignitary, Mr. Sushil Dubey of Nalanda Mahavir.
Good morning, everyone. Respected dignitaries of today's webinar on the topic, Impact of Gandhiji's Social Philosophy in Kerala. It's a privilege and honor to introduce a professor with such credentials in the academic to the equally august audience. Professor Sushil Dubey, who is to inaugurate the webinar today, is Professor of Philosophy in now Nalanda Mahavir at Nalanda, Bihar. It's a deemed university under Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Professor Dubey, with his long association with research in philosophy and his specialization in yoga and meditation, was amazingly vibrant and consistent in his field of chosen area, a quality which every young aspiring researcher has to emulate in her or his career. Before he joined as professor in now Nalanda Mahavir at Nalanda, he worked as program officer in Indian Council of Philosophical Research, taught philosophy and yoga in Yoga Center, Rani Durgavati University, Jabalpur, and Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga. He received 3 university gold medals and 3 national fellowships. His research in his passion produced amazingly brilliant results and proved how a researcher could be beneficial to society. His engagements with his passion of research produced 4 books, 39 research papers, 10 radio talks on yoga, and 1 television broadcast on Surya Namaskar to EduSat. He has delivered around 65 talks and 40 online programs. He has received Best Book Award on his book Kaudilya Arthashastra from ABDP and a certificate from Ayush Ministry, New Delhi, 2007. This is the way a researcher could be useful to society. It will definitely give meaning to your life and by helping others to find meanings in their lives. An academician achieves his career fulfillment and social sublimity. Gandhiji taught us and left for us the legacy. Life without social commitment is worthless. Professor Sushim Dubey, with his consistent commitment to his profession and passion, reminds us the legacy of Gandhiji. It is really an honor for us sharing a platform with you, sir. Professor Dubey's expertise and talents is tapped by various national and international committees, councils, review committees, and textbook committees. Currently, he serves as advisory member, Faculty of Health and Wellness, Sri Sri University, Cuttack, member Academic Council, Nav Nalanda Mahavir, and member NTA Yoga. Professor Dubey is managing editor of ICPR of Ministry of Education. On behalf of the University College, Thiruvananthapuram, kindly allow me to invite Professor Dubey to inaugurate the webinar series. Please, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam, for introducing me, and my humble namaskar to all of you who are here in this online webinar program being sponsored by Indian Council of Philosophical Research, New Delhi, organized by Department of History, University College, Thiruvananthapuram, and the very title, Impact of Gandhiji's Social Philosophy in Kerala, the Father of Nation, Rashtrapita, the very title of Gandhiji, which is not only is near and dear to all of us being the citizen in India, but globally it is accepted, and we find that Gandhiji's name of a square, his statues, his births in the museum, in the squares, on the roads, on prominent places across the globe. So particularly here in this program, the association and impact of Gandhiji's in social philosophy in Kerala, 5 times Gandhiji visited, and as I have already spoken, that the Gandhiji, the father of nation, Rashtrapita, the very title given or addressed by none other than the great on whom we have just recently celebrated as Parakram Divas, 125th birth anniversary of Subhas Chandra Bose ji. So with his father of nation or Rashtrapita and the very another title, because social philosophy which is impacting or which is concerned with society, and society is comprising of mass people, their social needs, their upliftment, their guidance, and of course their well-wishing and well-being as a whole in the society, as a cosmos for the entire humanity and human being also. So the Gandhiji, another like Rabindranath Tagore, who was affectionately told him as the Bapu, and as Gandhiji visited at least 5 times to the Kerala for various social cause, for social fabrics, for social unity, in view of Khilafat agitation or the Vaikom Satyagraha, and again in Vaikom Satyagraha, and then Malabar reasons where his speech and donated all whatever the way the society, the upliftment of people, the untouchability, and several other social issues and basic fabrics or rubrics of our society, which Gandhiji touched with his truth, non-violence or ahimsa or satyagraha, the basic methodology that he has given to all of us. And in the Travancore region also in 1937 when Gandhiji visited. So in all his visits, not only here in Kerala, but at large to the Indian society, the contribution, his message for all of us to follow the path of truth, and that is the truth that we are revisiting, that we are trying to aspire, that we are looking in the form of wisdom, which is the gradual culmination of our consciousness towards the higher and higher truths. If we can say a word for the wisdom or its process, which is the love for wisdom, the word philosophia, love for wisdom. And in the darshan, to be defined in Indian scenario, drishyate anenenit darshanam, and this reflective consciousness, and this reflection to be done for all our activities which we are doing continuously. We are concerned, being our own self, being in our family, being in our city or society or in our nation, and revisiting, relooking on its various aspects, not only towards the values, not only towards the whatever has given a cause for culmination of any civilization or society or a dynasty that is forming history, of which already we are here in this history department. So Gandhiji, whose life, whose message and continues his affection and a very tone, a very tenor and every effort to Harijan, that the word he has given, the paper that he edited or he started, and his message was there toward the peace in society, that we do find with the Gandhiji. And I positively believe, hope, and we being as a true follower of our nation and Gandhiji, this truth of higher realm of our consciousness, we should find with philosophy and Indian Council of Philosophical Research, which is a body to promote philosophy in our country. And of course, being the history, we are the preserver, we are the promoter, and we are the again putting to all of us what is the truth. If we are concerned with the Gandhiji, we need to be, and this non-violence, which are the coin, the same, the different side of the same coin, as Gandhiji is telling, or truth and non-violence as old as the hill, which are the words of Gandhiji. So with this, I think the program which we are here in this virtual platform, Google Meet, and the Department of History, impact of Gandhiji's on social philosophy, all these fabrics are with the Gandhiji's vision, his inner conscience, his sensitivity towards the lower realm, towards the least, those who are here, who are waiting for upliftment. So Gandhiji has extended his hands. He has tried to bring upon all those on the forefront of the society, and not only to the society, but as a good human being, as a good social agent, towards their ethical as well as spiritual, if at all it is possible and is acceptable to all. That way we have the path of Gandhiji, the path of the humanity. And with this department, with this program, and I have been very fortunate to being invited here, and my all reverence and my respect to the very principal of this college, Dr. B. Unnikrishnan Nayarji, and of course, we are going to have the keynote speaker, Dr. L. Vijayji, and felicitation by Dr. Subramanyamji, Vice Principal of this college, as well as the resource persons, Dr. B. Sobnamji, and very organizer team, entire team here, and Dr. G. Suraj, the very head of the department, energetic of this department, and coordinator, Dr. Suresh Ji, who has been continuously in contact with me about this program to all of us. And with these small words, I come back to you and giving my a very humble namaskar and thanks to all, and also wishing that we should strive for the values enshrined in our constitution as well as seen by the Gandhijis as a supreme path toward the realization of the human values. With this, I thank all of you and warmly welcome for this and such kind of series of programs sponsored by ICPR and also taken further by department. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your erudite ideas and positivity you gave us, which would obviously reflect in our minds and lives too. Gandhi said, strength does not come from physical capacity, it comes from an indomitable will. Next, for keynote, I would call upon Dr. L. Vijay, Assistant Professor, Department of Philosophy, Government College for Women, Trivandrum. I would make a note about his philosophical ideas, which are not only famous in India, but has been popularized all over abroad. He has been keenly working as an active member of ICPR and has been proved to be a very productive and creative in his work.
Thank you, Arya. Pranams to Professor Sushin Dubey ji, respected head of the department, Suraj sir, the coordinator of the webinar, Suresh sir, respected principal and vice principal of University College, other dignitaries who have joined the webinar, and dear students. At the outset, I express my sincere gratitude to the organizers of the seminar for giving me this opportunity to come over here and deliver the keynote address. It is indeed a daunting task for any teacher of philosophy to summarize what philosophy is in a very short span of time. But since this is the duty that has been assigned to me, I would like to share some ideas about what philosophy is. Because the general fraternity over here is that of history, and they may not be aware of the nuances of philosophy. So I'd like to venture into what philosophy is. So, so that you can remain engaged, I would do my address in the form of a presentation. I'd now like to present before you. Okay. Basically, whenever we deal with philosophy, we have to begin with, as two of the earlier speakers, Sushin ji, as well as the comparing student, had also mentioned that we have to really begin with the etymology of the term philosophy. And for here, I would say the word philosophy's origin is traced to the Greek word philosophia. Now, philosophia means love of wisdom. It is pursuit of wisdom, or it is also termed as a systematic investigation. Now, the English word philosophy comes from a combination of two Greek words, which are philo and sophia. Philo refers to love and sophia means wisdom. Therefore, the literal meaning of the term philosophy is love of wisdom. It is very important when we look into or when we try to shed light on any particular topic to basically get to the etymology of it, because the original intended meaning of what the term is comes to light when we look into the etymology. That is why I have touched upon the etymology first. Now, wisdom indeed has a deeper connotation than knowledge. Wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment, the quality of being wise. The famous Greek philosopher Plato, in his magnum opus Republic, has defined the philosopher thus: he who has a taste for every sort of knowledge and who is curious to learn and is never satisfied may be justifiably termed a philosopher. So it is a great fortune of the current students and teachers of philosophy that the great masters who have gone before us in the ancient times have laid before us a very broad platform wherein to work. Okay, it is quite obvious from the great definition of a philosopher given in the magnum opus of Plato, that is the Republic over here. Now, let's take a look at some of the definitions of philosophy. Philosophy is often defined as a rational investigation of the truths and principles of being, knowledge, or conduct. Okay, this roughly corresponds to the three important constitutive core disciplines of philosophy, that is metaphysics, epistemology, and axiology, wherein we have ethics as a constituent discipline. Okay, so it is a rational investigation upon three most important concerns of human life. That is the nature of being or existence, the nature of knowledge, because it is only a human venture to basically define what knowledge is and to acquire knowledge. We know that the rest of the animal kingdom is not really bothered about what knowledge is. It simply runs on the basis of the instincts that are basically programmed into it. And we are also careful of our human conduct because we are free individuals and we can choose to behave in the way we want. So therefore, we have to set goals in front of us regarding our conduct and to streamline our actions in such a way that we attain to that particular goals. Now, it is a critical study of the basic principles and concepts of a particular branch of knowledge. Now, this gives philosophy a very, very broad platform to work upon. Like, for example, whenever you reflect upon or dwell upon any fundamental notion of any particular discipline, the most basic constitutive questions about any discipline, you in fact create what is called as a philosophy of that discipline. Like, for example, if you study history, of course, it is a history fraternity that is attending the same webinar today. But when you look into the methodology of history or the fundamental assumptions of history, the way history progresses, the way history unfolds itself through time, now this is an area where philosophers can reflect upon and dwell upon. And as a result of it, we get what is called as a philosophy of history. Similarly, if we dwell upon the fundamentals of language, the syntax and semantics of language, and how language communicates meanings to others, then it amounts to what is called as philosophy of language. So there is a possibility to reflect upon any discipline under the sun and to carve out a unique niche for philosophy using philosophical tools of analysis. Now, basically, philosophy is also any system of beliefs, values, or tenets. As beliefs, values, or tenets, philosophy dwells upon the intangible. And we all know values are, although they are intangible, yet they play a very significant role in our lives. It is only through how we value things in our life that we basically set goals in front of us, pursue or direct our actions towards it, etc. So values, although they are intangible and they may appear abstract to us, in fact, play a very significant role in our life. So similarly, our belief systems and other such tenets. Now, philosophy is also a personal outlook or a viewpoint. There is no denying it. Because every person in this sense can have a philosophy. Because there is a unique perspective of taking a stand towards a particular issue. Okay, developing a unique perspective based on rational reflection and deep thinking and analysis. Now that is basically what is called as philosophy as an outlook or a personal point of view. It is also a state of mind. It is also a serenity of temper. The Greek thinker Pythagoras, as it was already mentioned earlier, is credited with the introduction of the term philosophy. Now, philosophy, let's just quickly browse through some important definitions of philosophy, some celebrated definitions of philosophy. The great Greek thinker Heraclitus has called philosophy as a sacred disease. It is disease because it really absorbs into every part of our being. We get completely involved in the process, and yet it is an inquiry into that which is the real or the absolute or the ultimate reality, and hence that disease is a sacred disease. Now, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, one of the greatest minds in the history of philosophy, has said, to comprehend what is the task of philosophy, for what is reason. Okay, and we saw all processes in this world as an unfolding of the process of reason. through what he called as the dialectical triad of the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. Now, great Martin Heidegger, who was also referred to earlier, referred to or defined philosophy as an extraordinary inquiry into the extraordinary. Our former president of the Indian Union, Professor S. Radhakrishnan, has defined philosophy as a way of life, which clearly reflects the Indian perspective towards philosophy, which believes that philosophy should never be confined to what is called as lip service, but it is something to be practiced in life. It is something to be absorbed. It is something to be practiced through thought, word, and deed. So that is the reason why Radhakrishnan has defined philosophy as a way of life. Now, the perennial task of philosophy, according to James H. Heisig, is it does not consist in transmitting accumulated knowledge, but in reassuring the love of truth. So it is not, the concern of philosophy is not merely transmitting the history of philosophy or what has been said about philosophy, but it is to churn out philosophies time and again. It is to constantly dwell upon and reflect on the ideals around you, all the institutions around you, the thought processes that run in the society, and to churn out schools and thoughts of philosophy, and thereby ensure that a generation of people live in the ideal of love of truth. It's a very valuable definition given by James Heisig. Now, if you look at philosophy in the Indian tradition, Sushinji had already mentioned that in his address earlier. Philosophy has basically been called as darshana, which means a direct intuitive perception of reality. Now, this definition of darshana, as the word connotes, is to us that philosophy is not merely about an armchair thinking, but it is about the pursuit of truth. It is coming face to face with the ultimate reality. That is why coming face to face with ultimate reality has been the concern of almost all schools of Indian thought. That is why it has been called as moksha, it has been called as nirvana, it has been called as ever so many names in the Indian tradition. So it is basically darshana. Okay, so the goal there is to come face to face with reality, not merely acquire an intellectual understanding of what reality is. Okay, now in the Indian tradition again, another very important term that is used to designate philosophy is siddhanta. Now, the word siddhanta basically refers to any standpoint that is arrived at after very serious, sincere deliberations and brainstorming. Because any topic under the sun has to be put under deliberation. We need to deliberate upon it using rational tools of inquiry and reflection. And as a result of such very sincere and severe brainstorming, we can finally arrive at our conclusions. These conclusions are not... Sorry, yeah, tell me.
I'm sorry for the interruption, sir. I would request you to please shorter address because we have a down.
Quickly, yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the reminder. So that is how the Indian tradition has basically looked upon philosophy. And to take a look at Gandhian philosophy, Gandhiji, all the Indian Renaissance thinkers have basically amalgamated the idea or the true spirit of Indian tradition, and Gandhiji is no exception. And he was also basically rooted in the Indian traditions like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Jainism, and Vaishnavism. And from the Western tradition, also he has absorbed a lot. That is Leo Tolstoy, Henry David Thoreau, and great pillars of truth and non-violence. They are themselves borrowed from the Panchavatas, the school of yoga. They are Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya, Aparigraha, and Brahmacharya. Okay. And finally, integrity in thought, word, and belief, which is a cardinal feature of Indian philosophy. Expression in the Gandhian statement, my life is my message. So this is all about when you dwell upon Gandhian philosophy. The one dictum that you always have to keep in mind is that there should be an integrity in thought, word, and deed. Okay. With this, I'd like to conclude my remarks, and I express my sincere gratitude once again to Suraj sir and Suresh sir, the coordinator of the webinar, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Vijay sir, for promulgating the idea of philosophy to us. It was wonderful having you here. May I now invite Dr. Subramanian S., our respected Vice Principal of University College, Trivandrum, to have a word on felicitation.
Respected Principal, Dr. B. Unikrishnan Nair sir, Chief Guest of the Day, Professor Sushil Dubey, and respected Professor Dr. B. Shobhanan, Dr. L. Vijay, HOD of History, Dr. Suraj, Coordinator of the program, Dr. Suresh, and other MPhil students, PhD students, and other teachers of this college and other college. A very good morning to all. I am indeed delighted to participate in this program, and in fact it is a very needed topic in present day. Actually, the young minds of India should know who is Gandhiji and what is his philosophy and what is his contribution to the development of our nation. So, the importance of his, and actually the very essence of in India's success in global scenario depends on Gandhiji's vision. You should remember his idea that the life of nation like India depends on the development of villages in India. So that is the greatest contribution by our Rashtrapita, as our chief guest told today. That is the greatest contribution by our Rashtrapita. The life of any nation like India depends on the development of village. So all his thoughts are having very much importance to the development of a nation like India. And in fact, it is a very needed topic today, because the young minds are actually traveling in new arenas in the modern technology, but they should know what is the concept and philosophy of our Rashtrapita. Okay, so such seminars are actually very important for us. So I wish a grand success to the program, and also I congratulate the whole team of Department of History and the faculty who are presenting over here and through the webinar, and I congratulate each and everyone, and I wish a grand success to the program, and thank you all. Thank you.
Hello, Anna.
Yes, sir.
Please
Thank you,
continue.
sir. Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Now may I call upon our coordinator, Dr. Suresh, sir, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries and scholars. Voltaire says, appreciation is a wonderful thing. It makes what is excellent in others belong to us as well. First, I have to thank the Honorable Principal, Dr. Unikrishnan Nair, for presiding the invited talk seminar series, jointly organized by the Department of History and the ICPR in the academic year 2020-21. I express my heartfelt gratitude to him for reminding us the importance and relevance of conducting well-organized seminars, balancing teaching and administration. Next, I would like to thank Professor Sushin Dubey, who inaugurated the seminar series. Professor Dubey is a well-known teacher of philosophy among scholars across India. He is an excellent philosophy teacher, dealing online and offline classes alike. His relentless efforts through ICPR helped to bring philosophical concepts to more people. In spite of his busy schedule, he could inspire and enliven us through his thought-provoking inaugural address. I, on behalf of each and everyone gathered here, express my gratitude with folded hands. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. L. Vijay, Assistant Professor, Evans College, for delivering his keynote address, a unrivaled philosophy in his performability. I thank Professor Subramanian Sir, Vice Principal, for felicitating the seminar by his short and effective speech. Professor G. Suraj, Head of Department of History, welcomed the dignitaries of the seminar. Without his assistance and guidance, the seminar would not have materialized. Thank you, sir, for your unconditional support. Professor Shobhanan Sir, the resource person for today's technical session, is my mentor and guide to my life. I express my in-depth gratitude to him, whose love always encouraged me to reach the best. I thank all my colleagues, Dr. Sajid Singh, Dr. Balakrishnan, Professor Sakaria, Dr. Anisha Jebalan, Dr. Shakila, Dr. Sinida, Dr. Robinson Jose, Dr. Subhash, Srimati Sindhu, and Dr. John for their wholehearted support. The seminar is materialized on their efforts. Thank you to all participants, teachers in and outside University College and students. Thanks to Ms. Anna and Ms. Irene Bose, students of MA, second year, for their excellent hosting and technical support by Harinarayanan, Nijin and Nitish. I thank you all for taking time off to join us in the inaugural session. I am reminding you the words of Rene Descartes. I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. So think, act, and be happy. To conclude the inaugural session, the words of Aristotle: we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh sir, our coordinator, who stands as the backbone of this webinar today. With this, we come to the end of our inaugural session. On behalf of the Department of History, I convey our ineffable gratitude to our dignitaries for their valuable time and cooperation. So shall we continue, or is a break required? So shall we continue, or is a break required?
If anyone
Okay,
is
moving
having
on.
any query for questions, please put forward.
Moving on, I now cordially invite Dr. Sajeev Singh sir, Assistant Professor of History, Department College, to introduce and welcome our Chief Resource Person, Dr. Shobhanan, Dean of Social Sciences, Kerala University. Please, sir.
Respected participants, we have gathered through this Google Meet to conduct a seminar jointly organized by the Indian Council of Philosophical Research, Delhi, in association with the Department of History, University College, Thiruvananthapuram. The title of this one-day seminar is Impact of Gandhi's Social Philosophy in Kerala. No other name is familiar to Indians as Mahatma Gandhi. Born in Gujarat, he had his education in India and Britain. But this education, which was mainly meant for making coins and comforts, did not attract this saint of modern India. Like the prince of Kapilavastu, who discarded his comforts and luxuries and gone to inquire the reasons for the tears of humanity, this modern Buddha of India also discarded his hard-earned professional degrees and Western attire and became a half-naked fakir, imitating a poverty-stricken ordinary Indian. What made Mahatma Gandhi exceptional was he found British rule as not the sole problem of India, but one of the many problems like poverty, illiteracy, caste disability, and Hindu-Muslim disunity. Britishers whose empire where the sun never set and who had the sophisticated chastising machine to silence any disobedience became little bit dazzled before this old man who was standing with the old weapons of truth and non-violence. Britishers who were Christians in their belief had never seen Christ, but they had seen a Christ in Mahatma in flesh and blood, who echoed the words of a good Samaritan thousands of years back. If the enemy strike on your left cheek, show him the right cheek and change his mind and win his heart. Mahatma Gandhi was holding Bhagavad Gita in his hand, but his mind was much more molded by the ideas of Christ. At last, Britain, the highest nation, the mightiest nation, bowed before this brave son of India. But the prophet of modern India, who won his spiritual battle against colonialism, lost his battle against communalism. The man who successfully dealt a foreign problem created by the Britishers, bowed before the Indian problems created by caste and religion. The man who bravely fought against Britishers but remained unharmed was sent back from the stage of history not by the Britishers but by the sons of our soil. Nowhere Gandhiji is venerated and respected like that of Kerala. He's a household name in most of the homes and eternal spirit of all Keralites. To discuss about the impact of Gandhi's social philosophy in Kerala, we have with us Dr. Shopanan, who is a mirror image of Gandhi's humility and simplicity in academic field. He had a teaching experience of
We have got some technical issues. We'll be continuing shortly.
നിങ്ങളുടെ അത് കട്ടായല്ലോ. ഇത് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്യാൻ പറഞ്ഞാൽ പോരെ അവളോട് തന്നെ എടുത്ത്. സാർ അവളെ വിളിച്ചു പറ.
Hello?
Suresh sir, can you hear me?
Okay, please continue.
Okay. Now I cordially invite our Chief Resource Person, Dr. Shovanan, the Dean of Social Science, Kerala University, to speak on the topic. Please, sir.
Learned and respected Professor Sushil Dubai, respected Principal Dr. Unikrishnan Nayak sir, Vice Principal Dr. Subramanian, my beloved and learned faculty members of the Department of History, headed by Dr. Suraj, the coordinator and the organizer of the seminar, Dr. Suresh, other learned teachers, scholars, and my dear I'm having the fortune to say a few words about the impact of speaker.
I would request everyone to please mute your presence.
Can I continue?
You can continue, sir.
Can I continue?
Yes, sir, you can continue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So the lecture, my speech can be divided into two parts. Now, first part, I would like to say a few words about the caretaker brain, as well as the general background of the social philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. And the second part would be around the context of Kerala. Now, the social philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, continues to be the living manifestations of his commitment to the cause of the toiling, moiling millions throughout the world. Now, his experience in South Africa and his contacts with Kerala played a decisive role in molding the social philosophy of Gandhi. Almost like the South African experiences, the social spectrum of Kerala brought about far-reaching transformation in the outlook of Gandhiji towards the people who hailed especially from the royal strata of the society. You know, truth, non-violence, Sarvodaya, and Swaraj remain the four pillars of Gandhian philosophy. You know, my friend Professor Sajeev has mentioned in his welcome speech in the beginning. Now, the impact of Gautam Buddha on the life of Gandhiji, now almost like the Ashtanga Marga, by Gautam Buddha, that is the noble eightfold path, the middle path, that is about the right aim, right action, right attention, right belief, right effort, right living, right meditation, and right speech. You know, when we just see the social background of Gandhian philosophy, we can see that, you know, such a Ashtanga Marga put forward by Gautam Buddha has got a kind of tremendous impact on the philosophical background of Gandhiji too. Now, Gandhiji's social philosophy was also grounded on an 11-fold path. Now, Buddha has got his 8-fold path. When we come to the philosophy of Gandhiji, now this 8-fold path in the form of satya or truths, then ahimsa or the non-violence, then non-stealing, self-discipline, non-possession, then about right to labor, control of the appetites, fearlessness, equality of all religions, and also removal of untouchability and Swadeshi. Gandhiji made it clear that following this 11-fold path of 11-fold principles or vows or the paths, it's not a sign of weakness, but it is a symbol of strength. It strengthens the mankind to be free from jealousy, fear, falsehood, any type of violence, stealing, greediness, and from antagonism. It wanted to control over undue desires and wishes, too much of attachment towards worldly possessions, and to develop the feeling of love and respect towards all religions, nations, and the humanity. It was calculated to ensure peaceful coexistence and humanity. This noble 11-fold path provided a firm guideline for the entire mankind to live, enjoy, and celebrate a divine, peaceful, and harmonious life. Being a Sanatana Hindu, Gandhiji's interest in the depressed classes was deep humanitarianism, and he stood against the evils of justice. He treated untouchability as a heinous crime against humanity. He considered the so-called untouchables as children of God and called them as heretics. He cited several instances from the Vedas, Shastras, Smritis to show that untouchability had no guarantee from the Holy Scriptures. Atharva Veda stated, freedom from hate, I bring to concord and unanimity. Love one another as the cow loves the calf. It further mentioned that all men are brothers and whom no one is superior or inferior. Here, Gandhiji's Varna system was not hierarchical, and the idea of superiority or inferiority was totally against this concept of a Varna system. To him, Varna cannot be a set of rights or privileges, but performance of certain duties and obligations only. It was based on the principle of equality between different occupations and laid emphasis on observances of one's obligations. Gandhiji believed that the Varna system was based on hereditary occupations. There was, he said, a sound of social and economic reasons for the occupational division. He defined Varnas as universal occupations. Varnas are four to mark our universal occupations, that is, imparting knowledge, defending the defenseless, carrying out agriculture and commerce, and performing service through physical labor. He was against the ancient traditional form of fourth-order classification. As we all know, Brahmins who occupied the highest strata of the society, noted for their spirituality, and the Kshatriyas being the second, noted for their defense, Vaishyas for business, and Shudras for service. He was totally against such a ancient system of fourth-order classification. According to him, a child born of Brahmin parents will be called as Brahmin, but if he fails to reveal the attributes of a Brahmin after attaining his maturity, then he would not be called a Brahmin. On the other hand, a child who is not born of Brahmin parents but reveals the attributes of a Brahmin after attaining maturity would be called a Brahmin, though he was originally not a Brahmin by birth. Gandhiji considered the Varna system beneficial for the individual as well as for the community by placing at their disposal the accumulated knowledge of the previous generation. The untouchability issue is one of the most atrocious features of the caste system in India. Mahatma Gandhi regarded it as the greatest fault on Hinduism that ruined the vitals of Hinduism. It represented a total negation of all kinds of fundamental rights as well as of all criteria of civilized and decent existence. It means pollution by the touch of certain persons by reason of their birth in a particular state or family. In the case of religion, it is always in the way and corrupts the religion. People who work in ignominious, polluting and unclean occupations were considered as untouchables. They had no right in the society. They were not allowed to touch people from the poor Varnas and to enter the houses of the higher Varnas. The untouchables lived in a subhuman social existence, abject poverty, economic exploitation, a subculture of sufficient and political powerlessness. They withstood the psycho-economic pressure of the social conformity for centuries. It was a case of a permanent hereditary stain, which nothing could clean the society. Gandhiji believed that Hinduism would reach its perfection only when the untouchables would become not only touchables but thoroughly merged into the Hindu mainstream. He graphically stated the condition of the untouchables over the columns of intelligence. This journal. Socially, they are lepers. Economically, they are worse than slaves. Religiously, they are denied entrance to a place we called the house of God. They are denied the use on the same terms as the caste Hindus. Public roads, public places, public wells, public taps, public parks, and the like. The wonder is that they are not able to find out an existence or that they remain within the Hindu fold. They are too downtrodden to rise in revolt against their suppressors. He continued, and I venture to say, in all humility, with all the strength I can command, that to perpetuate untouchability in the manner we have done is a serious fault to Hinduism and unwanted abuse of Buddhism and negation of love, which is the basis of Hinduism. I therefore do not hesitate to call without untouchability as practiced today as satanic activity. For him, removal of untouchability means love and service to the entire society and thus merges into ahimsa. In Young India, he wrote, the removal of untouchability is much more than building a temple of brick and mortar. Hindus must bleed for it, must pay for it. They must be prepared to forsake wife, children, and all for the sake of removing the curse. It would break barriers that separated mankind from their fellow beings. He wanted to correct the social evils through constructive programs. He believed that constructive programs would gradually build up the structure of a new non-violent society. Such programs wanted the complete acceptance of non-violence and the socio-economic justice as a precondition in practice. It emphasized personal service to the masses by sharing their miseries, through which the courage and moral strength of the downtrodden can be boosted. The constructive programs are calculated to make the Satyagrahi steady, calm, industrious, and independent by continuing his organizing spirit. Satyagraha as well as constructive program spell out a permanent solution against the social exploitation and injected a spirit of self-confidence in their lives. And now I think it is better to proceed to the second part of my presentation. As our learned speaker, Professor Sushin Dubey has rightly mentioned, Gandhiji came down to our state for 5 times. And at this juncture, I would like to dwell upon the social background of Kerala shortly. The socio-political spectrum of Kerala wielded tremendous impact on the life and mission of Gandhiji, almost like his experience in South Africa. Till the advent of Aryans, Kerala, like the rest of South India, were not accustomed to the caste system. They were not familiar with social restrictions and disabilities. They exercised total freedom. There was no discrimination in the name of caste. They were not familiar with the Varna system. But following the establishment of the Brahminical hegemony, the socio-political spectrum of Kerala underwent far-reaching changes. The society was broadly divided into caste Hindus called Savarnas, and the lower sections were treated as Avarnas. It created social tensions and turbulences to a great extent. The enormities committed by the upper caste were such that the lower caste feared them like chickens at the sight of the cage. The non-caste Hindus were not allowed to dress properly, restricted to walk on public roads, and even their physical proximity to the higher caste was considered as a serious offense. They were denied of the right of education and not even allowed to assume Sanskrit names, but which were the privileges of the caste. They were kept at a distance from the higher caste, which segregated and excluded from the ordinary life of the community. They were not allowed to carry umbrellas, to wear shoes or golden ornaments, to carry pots of water on their feet, to build houses above 1-story height, to milk house, or even to use ordinary language in the country. Their services were often demanded to labor or carry burdens for the Sudras and the native government, for which they were often unpaid or received a mere nominal sum. They were treated under bullion and military service. In agriculture, wages were usually paid in kind and at the lowest possible rates also. According to the social differences, distinctions, disparities, discrimination existed in all over the world. These were present, such restrictions were, disabilities were present in Kerala in a very high degree. In Kerala, discrimination against the untouchable caste was so severe that some were not even permitted to move through the roadways passing near to these temples. The state of bondage at this part of the world was worse than that of anywhere else in the world. So, having seen this extreme rigidity of caste laws and their harsh enforcement in Kerala, the God's own country, Gandhiji expressed the view that in a place so beautiful, so lovely, there should be unloveliness in man against man. And it was a matter of deepest grief to me. The world outside has a right to measure Hinduism by its manifestations in this state. Unfortunately for Hinduism, unfortunately for the state, and unfortunately even for all India, there is not even credit to the state in the matter of untouchability. Gandhiji explained this When I saw with my own eyes what the state was, what cultural ruler and what a cultural divan it had, this existence of unapproachability, Tagore puzzled me how such a state with such a sovereign, such a divan, and such a people baffled me, and it still continues to baffle me. It's the so-called untouchables. Can I continue? So-called untouchables. Suresh, can I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the so-called untouchables walked on the roads around the sacred temples. The temples would be polluted, or as the position as nature provides, the devout temple goers would be polluted by their shadows, as revealed by the Akin Satyagraha. Gandhiji blamed Kerala as the darkest spot of untouchability map in India and wanted purification and penance on the part of the so-called higher caste. He sincerely prayed for their change of heart. He made it clear that the only way to God is to see Him in His creation and be one with Him. This can be done only by service of all, by the service of all. Now, as you know, Gandhiji came to Kerala for 5 times and spent 43 memorable days of his life with the people of Kerala. Among the 5 trips, the first journey was undertaken on 18 August 1920, which lasted for only a single day. The first trip took place at the background of Khilafat and non-cooperation movements coupled with the Malabar rebellion. It marked the beginning of a new era in the history of freedom struggle with the massive participation of the common people. Now, as we know, it was the time of Amritsar tragedy, Jallianwala tragedy. Further, we wanted to know the pulse of these people of Kerala immediately after the Amritsar tragedy of 1990, and that's the background of the uprisings. As we know, the Amritsar tragedy played a vital role, very most decisive role in changing the course of the freedom struggle from the hands of a selected people to that of a massive movement. Now, that was his first visit, and they lasted only for a single day. But the second visit of Gandhiji on 8th March 1923, which lasted for 12 days, assumed greater importance in connection with the Akin Satyagraha. It wide opened the eyes of Gandhiji and emboldened to embark on a life and death struggle against untouchability and unseeability, which is the vitals of the life of Kerala. The Satyagraha in front of Akin Mahadeva temple started on 30th March 1924 with the blessings of Gandhiji. In Vakyam Satyagraha, Gandhiji utilized his most powerful weapon of Satyagraha to violate the fundamental and the basic right to walk through the public roads around the Shiva temple there. To boost the morale of Satyagraha, Gandhi to boost the morale of the Satyagrahis, Gandhiji reached Gandhiji came down to Ernakulam along with Sri Rajagopalachari on 8th March 1921. It received all India attention. People from different parts of the world, including the rallies for Adda, came down to Vakyam, and they extended unlimited support towards the success of the agitation. The newspapers and other public forums also came to their support. Finally, the active intervention of Gandhiji at the different stages of the agitation led to its triumph. In the Vakyam Satyagraha, the barriers of casteism were broken. The Savarnas joined with the Avarnas and led a Savarna Jatha under the leadership of Manotha Ratnathan, the General Secretary of the Mayaswami Society. The KPCC also played an important role towards the successful conduct of the Savarna Jada. There are people like Karu Niragandan Nambudiripada, Tanganasheri Parameshwarulai, Manatha Nathan, K. Kadapan, George Joseph, EVR Naik, EVR Ramaswamy Nayak, EV Kudishan, Chia Nair, KK Pillai, and MN Nair, etc., played a crucial role at the various stages of the 20 months long struggle. In accordance with the Gandhiji's advice, finally, Satyagraha was withdrawn on 21st November 1926. Subsequently, the approach roads to the Vacant Satyagraha were thrown open to all Hindus. That remained one of the greatest achievements of the Vacant Satyagraha, that under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. Anyway, the third visit was undertaken by Gandhiji on 9th October 1927 in the background of Simon Commission and the response of the people, and to know the response of the people. Just like the first. One second. Oh, sorry. Sorry. The power was about coming to an end. Sorry, sir. So the third visit conducted on 9 October 1927 in the background of the Simon Commission, and just to know the response of the people. During third trip, he received a rousing welcome in Travancore, Cochin, as well as Malabar. Just like the second visit, the fourth visit also commanded greater importance. He reached Kerala on 10th January 1934 and remained for 13 days by addressing a series of meetings throughout Kerala, besides visiting the Harijan colonies and hostels. The meetings were conducted in the context of Guruvayur Temple and Meditations. The Guruvayur Temple and Meditation at the Sri Krishna Temple became a major landmark in the history of social agitations in Kerala. A huge meeting was convened at Guruvayur to get popular support in favor of the Satyagraha. The Temple and Breed campaign at Purnani, K. Kadapan, and one of the Vatanapan were influential speeches, which attracted the attention of many. At the special meeting of our Kerala Pradesh Congress Committee held at Calicut on 8th October, it was resolved to begin the temple and vegetation at Guruvayur on 1st November 1931. 1st November 1931 was declared as All Kerala Temple and Breed Day. Prayers, processions, and public meetings were conducted all over in Kerala. It captured nationwide attention. That appears requesting the Samorin to conceive from different parts of the world. However, such appeals did not change the mind of Samorin. Gandhiji reached there with a keen interest and persuaded the caste Hindu leaders in the name of truth and rationale. When all the possible attempts ended in failure, K. Kadapan resorted to a hunger fast underdog. A series of prayer meetings, processions, and public meetings were arranged at different places in and outside the state, extending support to the hunger strike. The situation went beyond control. Gandhiji wanted the immediate drive of the hunger fast. The inestimable support to the Satyagrahis. It received the mass support and made the Savarnas to think in terms of a change of heart. It lasted from 1st November 1941 under the auspices of Kerala Congress committee was withdrawn after 10 months of struggle on 2nd October 1932 once again as per the advice given by Gandhi. Though it realized its goals only partially, it had to focus public attention on the age-long social discrimination of untouchability in Kerala. Gandhiji's last visit was carried out in between 10th and 21st January 1947 for a duration of 7 days, immediately after the temple entry proclamation issued by the Maharaja of Travancore in 1936. During the course of his journey, he came down to Bangalore on 40th January 1937 to meet Ayyangkali, leader of the Pulayas, and confer upon him the honor of Mahatma for his dedication to the cause of the Pulayas who came under the code of Harijans. Gandhiji referred Ayyangkali as Pulay Raja in his Bangalore address. It was Ayyangkali who fought for the women folk to secure the right to wear ornaments of their choice. Gandhiji considered this visit to Kerala in 1947 as a pilgrimage to see for himself happiness of the Harijans. Mutual veneration can be seen among them in their fight for the emancipation of the first classes in Kerala. In his Nathira and Takkalai speeches, Gandhiji exhorted people to remove the evil ideas of untouchability from the mind and to make friendship with Harijans. Only a purified mind and a heart will get divine blessings. That too only after the removal of caste and religious feelings. Satyagrahas of Satyam, Jidram, and provide possible sacrifice to creating among the people. All these traits of Gandhiji, all these 5 traits of Gandhi brought about tremendous impact on the feudal oriented socio-political structure of Kerala. Dr. Suresh, can I continue or?
You can continue, no problem. If anybody can ask questions, no problem.
Or you want to go for discussion or questions that would be?
If anybody can ask questions. Anna, please.
Thank you, Shobhan sir, for your Q&A lecture. It was wonderful having you here today. If anyone has any queries or questions to be asked, you can post it on our chat box kindly. I repeat, if anyone has any questions to be asked, you can please post it on the chat box.
Hello?
Shobhan sir, you can continue, sir.
And at the same time, we should bear in mind that Gandhiji was a product of basically of a Hindu religious and moral background. The family believed in the concept of Varnashrama Dharma. He never wanted to destroy the caste, but he wanted to purify Hinduism by removing untouchability. No doubt that he believed in equality between human beings. As he said, untouchability lives, Hinduism must die. In the words of Joseph Arnold Toynbee, it can already be forecast with some confidence that Gandhiji effect on human history is going to be greater and more lasting than either Stalin's or Hitler's. As proclaimed by Mahatma Gandhi, I experiment, my life is my message. And his 79 years life in this universe from 1869 to 1946 still continues to fervor throughout the world. So it is almost time, I think, because it is getting 1 o'clock. So suppose it can be in the form of some observations. Just I try to present some of the major highlights of this. A number of learned participants are there, students are there, scholars are there, researchers are there, so they can contribute. The purpose of such a seminar, there is one, it should become very lively, effective only to their contributions only. So, for the students, you can ask your students to participate in the discussion.
Anybody can ask questions, please. No.
Yes, sir. We'll have to wait for 5 minutes, sir. If anybody has any questions to be posted.
Okay. I think since it is the time for lunch.
Hello?
Am
I audible?
Okay, please.
Hello, sir. I am Manu, one of your students.
Okay.
Hello?
Please. Okay. I remember.
Sir, my question is about Gandhi's philosophy. How can we say that it is relevant today, sir? Hello? Do you think that it is apt for today?
No doubt. No, whether you like it or not, as per our situation, fundamental principles that the basis of Satya, that is truth, that is non-violence, ahimsa, and also dedication to the cause of the poor people. And such things it is always there. It can be relevant till the world continues to exist. Not only for yesterday, not for today, it will be equally relevant for tomorrow also. Though we located in different places. The nation, a civilization, a group of people, a society that largely depend upon such principles. So such things, there is no, without such principles like Satya or truth or ahimsa or the Sarvodaya or service to the cause of the people or about truths, there is no meaning of life in this world. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, right.
Are there any more queries that has to be asked? Risa, shall we continue?
Yes. Proceed. Next.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Shobhanan, sir.
Okay.
Now, to summarize the function, I would welcome Dr. Anisya J. Balan for the vote of thanks and for our resource person.
Hello, is it audible? Okay.
Sir, you are audible.
Right. Anisya ma'am, please continue.
Anisha ma'am, I would request you to please speak loud. Your voice isn't reaching here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Respected Chauvelin sir, the former professor and HOD of University Department of History, and also the former Dean of Social Science. And the duty assigned to me is to convey the vote of thanks to our beloved sir, the most renowned scholar in the field of history. And we express from the bottom of our heart our sincere thanks to you, sir, for spending your valuable time with us in enriching our knowledge about this topic, Gandhiji's social influence in the influence of Gandhi's social philosophy in Kerala. And we enjoy our beloved thanks to you, sir, for enriching our knowledge. And we also express our sincere thanks to all those who attended this meeting. So on the behalf of Department of History and on behalf of ICTR also, I extend my sincere thanks to all those who attended this meeting and also to Shobhanan sir for spending this time with us. You have always been with us with all the time we needed, sir. And thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anisya ma'am. The feedback form will be provided shortly. Please fill in the required information and your e-certificates will be generated shortly.
So please wait for some more minutes for posting feedback link.
Rachel, can we conclude?
Participants, please fill in the required information to generate your e-certificates. The feedback link has already been put up.
I hope everyone has filled their feedback form. Now we shall conclude our session. We would be conducting more such philosophical regarding the same talks. General talks would be held in February and the second talks would be taken in March. The same information shall be shared in your WhatsApp chat. Philosophy has a complicated relationship to history. History as a subject can cover the same ground as philosophy does. All recorded history is led by philosophers like prophets, kings, writers, poets, and such influential figures. With this, we come to an end of our session. I would like to thank our principal, Dr. B. Unindrishan Nair, for providing us this wonderful opportunity and to make a presence with such eminent scholars like Sushim Dubey sir, Vijay sir, and for utmost presence are with our resource person, Chobanan sir. We would also like to thank Dr. Suresh sir for coordinating this wonderful opportunity. Also, we would also thank all our professors who stood behind the seminar and made this as a huge success. And also our participants for their patience and for their kind request. Thank you all. See you all for the next seminar. Thank you.